And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, my favorite music, mostly metal. And we are going to take a dive into... If this had just been released on physical where I could have got my hands on it, it would have been in my top 10 of 2023. And that is Suitable Flesh. I fucking loved this movie. It was so fun. Now, Suitable Flesh was released in 2023. It's an hour and 40 minutes. That's decent. No 87-minute shit here. It was directed by Joe Lynch, and it was written by Dennis Paoli and H.P. Lovecraft. Really? And it stars Heather Graham, Judah Lewis, goddamn, and Bruce Davison, and the wonderful legend Barbara Crampton. Yes, it is. Or yes, it was. Yeah, and yes, it is. So, Suitable Flesh begins. We are introduced to Dr. Daniela. Now, Daniela is the chief at a psycho ward. Do they call them chiefs? She's the chief of a psycho ward? Whatever. But she is taking in a patient who happens to also be another psychiatrist named Dr. Elizabeth Derby, who claims that a body who just came in is still dangerous. So, Daniela asked her to tell the story of, how she's went fucking nuts. So she tells her about her perfect life and her job, and then enter Asa White. Now, Asa White. So, she's like having a counseling session, and this boy comes in named Asa and starts, he's a young student who needs to talk to her about his out-of-body experiences because she has written books on the subject. So he starts begging her to help him, and that he has been experiencing something like possessions, and that this evil thing was after him, and you even get to see it because he receives a phone call, and he claims it's his dad who's doing it to him, that his dad wants his body, which, could be taken in several different ways. In this way, it's sort of literal, right? So, after receiving a call, she actually witnesses this thing, this possession type event. He claims that man is after him and can possess his body by speaking certain words. Even over like the phone. All you got to do is hear the words. So, once this possession takes place, he really does act like an entirely different person. And it kind of really intrigues her, and so she offers to help for free because it intrigues her so badly, because she is, of course, thinking that it's multiple personalities. So, she becomes like instantly obsessed with him, having like hallucinatory visions about him, sex fantasies and things like that. He says that it's his father doing it. She ends up going to his house and meets his father, Ephraim, about Asa. She talks to Ephraim about Asa. She does notice like some creepy shit laying around, including like this Necronomicon type book, magic book. So Asa shows up again while she's with the patient, which was kind of funny because she had him hypnotized, and she goes out to talk to Asa while he's hypnotized in there, which is a pretty humorous scene. he calls later as she runs over to his house for a second time to stop him from killing his dad, where she tries to stop him from killing his dad. But he was seemingly dead from a heart attack on the floor, and Asa wants her to help him behead him, because that's the only way to stop it. So, while she almost starts to help him, but then, like, a possession happens again, because the dad wasn't dead, and once the transfer is complete, she still doesn't get it, really, you know? Because she's still in her non-spiritual realm, you know, scientific, not supernatural, you know. So he basically, right there on the spot, he ends up like seducing her, and she accepts, and they have this pretty intense sex scene with the dad's dead body laying right over there, which was kind of gross. So she's not really all there herself, to tell the truth. She knows now. They actually switch bodies, right? Isn't that when this happens? Asa kills the dad in front of her and beheads him, so the real Asa can't come back. She ends up running, then goes to see Daniela, who tries to talk her down and explain it all away. You know, like, you're too involved in this. You know he's crazy. He's, you know, multiple personalities or something. So the police end up arriving at her house to talk about the incident, but Asa has, like, covered for her, you know, and she plays along when they come to talk about the missing father, Ephraim, you know, that he's missing. She tells her hubby that her and Asa had an affair. So she ends up leaving and going and staying at her office. They, as I like to write it, they sex again. But it's just a dream. She tries to go home, but Asa calls her after he has chained himself. That was an interesting scene, because you was wondering, why is he chaining himself up in the basement? So he chains himself up, and then he calls her, which makes sense in a minute. So he calls her after he's chained himself up in the basement and speaks those words and actually switches bodies with her for a second time. That was extremely interesting, because she, of course, wakes up in Asa's body, chained to this pole, you know, doesn't know how to get out, and he's got her body, which is, it's very strange, because he then goes home to her body's house and screws her husband. So that's interesting, because, you know, it's like, how exactly do you put this? He steals her body to go home and screw her husband after he has screwed her. Is that metrosexual or whatever them people like to call themselves? I don't know, but it's like, make up your mind, you know. So that was some, you know, very interesting. So now she's trapped in his body in the basement. She ends up calling Danielle, but as him, and he convinces her to come over and to help because of the things that she says to Danielle. You know, because she says things that only Liz would know. So Danielle is like really confused enough to go and like check it out. So she goes to see and finds him down there in the basement. And she definitely almost convinces Daniela that this is all real. But then they switch back. So now Daniela's not talking to Liz no more. She's talking to Asa, the demon. So he convinces her that they were just role playing. That was called a hiccup. And, so that was really interesting, the way that he was able to convince her that she's crazy. We're just role playing, and that actually kind of pisses Daniela off, So, yeah, they switch back, calls her to her husband, but bad Liz, because I didn't know how to write their names, when who is in whose body. There's Asa, but then there's Liz, but sometimes it's Liz, but Asa's inside her. So what do you call her? I just called her Bad Liz. There's good Liz and bad Liz. So Bad Liz can see that Daniela doesn't believe, but after telling her private stuff, she believes once again. But they end up switching again. This is when, like I said, Asa convinced her that it was all a game. Liz takes off after Asa, lures him to her office, and actually almost hypnotizes him. Because she's talking all of this shit, and it's actually some good backstory that you're learning when they're having this discussion. But the whole time she's using, what was she using? The blade of a knife with the flashing light, the reflection off the knife to hypnotize him. And she actually does manage to hypnotize him long enough to distract him. And she stabs him right in the middle of the forehead. And it's oh my God. Isn't that what happens to that boy's brother in Talk to Me? The very opening scene of Talk to Me. This is right in the middle of the forehead. I'm what is it with the stabbing in the head thing that horror movies did? Because that's only the second time I've seen that. But it looked almost exactly like that scene from Talk to Me, that opening scene in Talk to Me. So she stabs him in the head and ends up pushing him out the window, where he splats on the ground. She goes down there and runs over. It's pretty gory. She, runs over and over and over him, trying to kill him. And then she jumps on him and starts stabbing him 50 times. But the cops pull up and catch her. And they take her away. And we're back to, where the movie started, with Daniela and Liz in the padded cell where she was telling the story. So we've made full circle now, and we're back. So she then once again gets Daniela to pretty much start believing, what was going on. But Liz was right. The body is still alive. And that was a good scene when it freaked that morgue operator, the morgue guy down there, freaked him out because it came back to life. Well, it was never dead, but it should have been dead. And it came back and switched again. So now Liz, good Liz, real Liz, is stuck in that busted, battered body, and bad Liz is back in control. And so her and Danielle end up having this huge fight, in the padded cell thing. So she switched back right after Daniela then, they start having a fight. They end up out in the hallway where that body's at, right? So it's come back too, and Daniela ends up finishing it off, right? They accept that Liz can't live in that, right? Because they had tried to revive it, because it freaked everybody out. And so she actually shoots the body in the head, which is actually killing her friend. But Liz wanted her to do that. She didn't want to live the way that she was. So she's now going to try to finish off Asa. They fight again. The orderlies come. And in the end, the demon wins. which is unusual for a horror movie. It doesn't have a happy ending, because in the end the demon wins because it had switched with Daniela in the fight in the hall. So now this demon is in Daniela, and Daniela is in Crazy Liz's body, being locked up. And just like Daniela had told Asa when he was in Liz's body, I'm in control here. I can keep you locked up for eternity, forever, in the crazy house till that body dies. And now that the situation is reversed, Daniela realizes that that's true. But the demon has her body. So Asa has her body, and he indeed can keep Liz, who is now Daniela, locked up forever in a padded cell as a psycho. And that's the way the movie ended. So I know that was a quick run through, but, I'm trying to hit all the plot points. So I thought it was absolutely, phenomenal. And Barbara Crampton, she's aged very well. She really still looks good. Well, I'm gay, so I don't mean sexually, but I'm sure you guys do. But she still looks really cool. And she was really good in this movie. I still want to get that. Didn't she make a movie called Jacob's Wife where she's like a vampire? I want to get that movie too. Because I think that the trailer for it is on this. And I was like, yeah, I've heard of that movie, but I didn't know it was Barbara Crampton. But I want to get that movie, Jacob's Wife, because that, after seeing the trailer, that looked really cool. But I absolutely loved this movie. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. If you have not seen Suitable Flesh, there's some comedy elements, but not as much as you would think. But there is some comedy stuff in it that's pretty funny. But then there's also a lot of really, the beheading, and when Liz was trying to kill Asa, that was rough. I mean, really rough. So this is a hardcore rated R. You know what I mean? No PG-13 shit here. And it's just absolutely phenomenal. So yeah. Suitable Flesh, Heather Graham, Barbara Crampton, whatever that cute guy's name was. But if you haven't seen it, it just got released. I mean, I snatched it as soon as it got released. It's a couple weeks ago that it got released on physical, and I was because I had seen the trailer, and I was really interested in this movie, and it was worth it. This was definitely worth it for your collection. Is Suitable Flesh. If you haven't seen it, you really should. I think the cast did an absolute great job. Barbara Crampton did a great job. Heather Graham did a great job. That boy, when he was his evil self, he really played the split dichotomy. When he was Asa, or the good Asa. When he was good Asa, he was genuinely scared. He was genuinely terrified and begging for help. And when he was the bad Asa, he was just wicked. You know what I mean? He was just he just had this wicked persona about him. And Heather Graham, Dr. Liz, she was obviously not all there to begin with, because there were things that happened. Granted, scientists are always crazy. It's the old physician heal thyself thing where psychiatrists are concerned. And she obviously had some issues herself, because when that whole stuff started, well, first of all, she screwed a patient, right? But when she was there and he was beheading his dad and all, and she just played it cool. I mean, she was horrified. But, like, when the cops came, there was your opportunity right there, you know. But she didn't do it. So, like I said, she wasn't exactly an innocent angel on this, and look what happened to her, you know. So, in the end, the real Asa is dead. And the real Liz is dead. The only two that were left was the evil Asa and poor Barbara Crampton. So the only good character that was left was Barbara Crampton. You know. So that's kind of what you soak in at the end. You're like, this was not a happy ending movie at all. You know, the good Ace is dead. The good Liz is dead. Poor Barbara Crampton, you know, poor Daniela, she's trapped in Liz's body, who's locked away for horrific murder, right? Because she ran him over 20 times with the truck. And then she stabbed him like 50 times. Oh, and she shot that orderly like right through the head. So yeah, she ain't getting out. And Barbara's trapped in the body that can't get out. I mean, what you gonna say? Who you gonna convince of that story? You know what I'm saying? So, I guess she could just be a good girl and try to make the best of living the next 40 years and, you know, in a mental institution, because there really ain't shit she can do about it. So, yeah, this was not a happy movie. It's like there's no happy ending. So despite its comedy elements, it's very, very dark. And the good guys don't win at all. So that's pretty cool for a change. You know what I mean? For the bad guy to win. And the bad guy definitely won. He ended up on top. And I love the way that they did. You know, you thought it at the end. You were like, I don't think she's real. You know, Barbara Crampton's character, Daniela. You didn't really know for absolute sure until the very end when she's sitting in her office and ha ha ha, you know, Liz is locked up in a padded cell. But Barbara Crampton's character liked to vape at work, right? So she reaches down there and she gets out her vape and she takes a big drag on it and starts hacking and coughing, which people who vape know you're only going to do that the first couple of times you ever vape. And then she like throws it down like ew. And instead she gets out and she rolls a cigarette. No filter. You know, just like old school Marlboro Man in the 1850s kind of shit. Now that was evil Asa's thing, was smoking rolled tobacco. You know, and so that's when you knew. And then, of course, it then shifted to her screaming in Liz's body in the padded cell, you know, and that's when you knew for sure. So they saved it to the very end for you to know that, yep, the bad guy won. So that was cool. So that was Suitable Flesh from 2023. Like I said, I didn't get to see it. I didn't have my hands on it because it came out in February? It was released in February. I think like February the 10th or something like that. I mean, no, when was it released? It was released like January the 14th, something like that. So I didn't have it regardless. I didn't have it in 2023. It was released at in the middle or the end of January, I think. Or maybe February the 2nd, 7th, something like that. Who the fuck cares? The point is, I didn't have it in 2023. So I didn't get to see it. Otherwise, this would have been on my top 10. I don't know what I would have exchanged it for, but it would have been on my top 10. Suitable Flesh, Heather Graham, Barbara Crampton. Fantastic movie. You really should see it. I think you'll love it. It's great. And I will see you in the next thing I do. Love you, miss you. Bye-bye. Got one more in this batch. And we're fisting to do it. See you later. Always remember, never forget, you're a very, very special person. No matter what anybody tells you. If they tell you any different, they're fucking lying. You're great. You're wonderful. You're fantastic. And now I've stroked your ego enough. Bye.